The night I dragged our son away from him, I swore I would never come back. Now I am standing under the cold fluorescent light of the emergency room, begging the very man I once left to save the boy gasping for his life. Ethan looks at me the way a man looks at an earthquake after it has destroyed everything he once knew, stunned, furious, broken in silence. His hand tightens on the glass door, knuckles pale, but he doesn't step inside. For a second, I almost believe he might turn away, leave me stranded with nothing but the sound of our son's shallow breathing down the corridor. But he doesn't. He never could, not when it came to Daniel. I whisper, my voice cracking, "He needs you, Ethan." The words taste like surrender. He finally turns, those piercing blue eyes locking on mine. They are colder than I remember, yet beneath the ice, I catch the faintest tremor, the ghost of the man I once loved, the man I betrayed when I disappeared in the middle of the night with his child. The story of us has always been brutal in its honesty. Ethan was fire, ambition, sharp words, relentless hunger for success in New York's financial world. I was water, soft edges, compromise, the quiet dreamer who painted to breathe. When we collided, it wasn't love at first sight, it was war disguised as passion. And yet, I couldn't stop myself. Neither could he. But war leaves scars, and ours came in the form of whispered fights behind closed doors, slammed doors echoing down hallways, and a baby's cry caught in between two men too stubborn to bend. When I left, clutching Daniel to my chest, I told myself I was protecting him from Ethan's impossible world, a world where money mattered more than lullabies. I told myself 1,000 lies. Now, standing here as Daniel lies in a hospital bed, I realize the ugliest truth. The only man who can save him is the one I swore my son would never need. Ethan's voice cuts through the chaos of the emergency room. What happened? The way he says it, low and restrained, makes my chest tighten. He isn't asking for my story. He is asking for Daniel's. Leukemia, I manage, the words stumbling off my lips like broken glass. He needs a bone marrow transplant. They tested me. I'm not a match. I see it happen in his face the moment the pieces click together. His jaw clenches, his eyes flicker, and suddenly the impenetrable man I left behind is shaking under the weight of fatherhood. I should look away. Instead, I drink in every second. Hours later, after blood tests and signatures, we sit together in the sterile hospital waiting room. The silence between us is unbearable, as if every unsaid word from the last 6 years has come back to haunt us in the hum of vending machines and the ticking of a wall clock. He breaks first. "You ran," he says, not a question, but a verdict. My throat burns. "I had to." "No, you didn't." His voice is sharp, slicing through me. "You chose to." The weight of his anger settles in the pit of my stomach. For years, I rehearsed 1,000 defense show he was too consumed by work. How he never saw the bedtime stories, the scraped knees, the quiet mornings when Daniel reached out for him and found nothing but absence. But now, none of those excuses matter. Because here we are, both powerless, both terrified, both bound by the fragile thread of a child's breath. I whisper the only truth left. "I thought I was doing the right thing." His laugh is bitter, empty. "The right thing? You stole my son." Ethan's test results come back within hours. He is a perfect match. Relief floods me, so sharp it almost hurts. But the look he gives me across the doctor's desk is anything but forgiving. "I'll do it," he says simply. "For him, not for me. Never again for me." I nod, choking back the ache that threatens to crush me. That night, while Daniel sleeps under a maze of wires and machines, I find Ethan standing at the glass window of the ICU. His hand rests against the pane, fingers splayed, as if he could reach through and hold the boy without disturbing the fragile cocoon of medicine and machinery. "He has your smile," I say softly, stepping up beside him. Ethan doesn't move. "No, he has yours." The quiet between us feels different now. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something rawer, sharper. Grief, regret, hope, trembling on the edge of breaking. For the first time in 6 years, I let myself look at him the way I used to in the mornings before the world claimed him. When he was just a man with tousled hair and sleepy eyes, curled around me like I was home. And God, I realize how much I still want to be his home. But this time I can't think about us. This time I can only think about Daniel. And yet, as Ethan's fingers brush against mine on the glass, I know something has already shifted. Something we can't undo. Ethan doesn't sleep the night before the surgery. I know because every time I open my eyes from the stiff chair beside Daniel's bed, I see him there, standing like a statue against the shadows of the ICU, watching our boy breathe. He doesn't pace, doesn't fidget. He just stands, shoulders tight, jaw locked, as if sheer willpower alone could keep Daniel alive. I used to love that about him, that terrifying, almost arrogant belief that he could control the world by sheer force. But it was also the reason I left. Because you can't strong-arm love. You can't dictate tenderness. You can't schedule fatherhood between board meetings and late-night calls with Tokyo. Still, watching him now, I wonder if maybe I was wrong. Maybe he always cared, just not in the ways I wanted him to. When the nurse comes to prep him, Ethan finally turns to me. "Don't leave him alone," he says. His voice is low, but the command in it is undeniable, the same tone he used to use when he asked me to stay, when he asked me to believe he was trying. "I won't," I whisper, and it's the truth. I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. The surgery is supposed to be straightforward, at least that's what the doctors tell us. A bone marrow harvest. No more dangerous than any other procedure with anesthesia. But nothing feels safe when the man I once loved more than anything is wheeled into an operating room. And my son's life depends on the success of what they take from him. I sit in the waiting room again. The same sterile box of bad lighting and stale coffee. My hands trembling in my lap. Memories ambush me one after another. The first time Ethan ever held Daniel. He had been terrified, though he'd never admit it. He stood there in the hospital room 6 years ago, his tie loosened, his shirt sleeves rolled up, staring down at the tiny wrinkled face like it was a financial report written in a foreign language. "He's so small," he muttered, almost in awe. "Babies tend to be," I teased, exhausted but glowing with pride. And then something broke in him. He softened. He gathered Daniel against his chest, clumsy but careful, his hand dwarfing the newborn's body, and I swear I saw a new world open in his eyes. "I'll protect you," he whispered to Daniel, but I heard it too. I don't think he knew I was watching, memorizing every detail of the way his lips trembled, the way his eyes glistened with something he would never call tears. And now here we are again. Another hospital. Another promise hanging in the balance. Hours crawl like years. The doctor finally appears, pulling off her surgical cap, and my heart slams into my throat. "The procedure was successful," she says gently. "Mr. Carter is in recovery. We'll begin preparing Daniel for transplant immediately." Relief floods through me so violently I almost collapse. I press my palms to my eyes, shaking with gratitude, fear, exhaustion, everything all at once. When I finally see Ethan again, he looks pale, drained, but alive. His eyes flutter open as I step into the recovery room. For a moment, I think he'll ignore me, that the wall between us is still impenetrable. But then his lips part, voice barely audible. "Is he?" "They're getting him ready now," I whisper. "You did it, Ethan. You saved him." Something flickers across his face, pride, relief, maybe even love, but then it hardens again. He closes his eyes, as if to shut me out. I want to reach for his hand. I don't. When Daniel wakes after the transplant, he is weak, so impossibly fragile. But his eyes search for us both. And when he sees Ethan standing at his bedside, something unspoken passes between father and son. Something I can't touch. Something I stole from them when I ran. "Hi, buddy," Ethan says softly, his voice breaking in ways I've never heard before. He brushes a careful hand over Daniel's hair, and the boy leans into the touch like he has been waiting his whole life for it. Tears sting my eyes. I look away. The days blur into each other after that. Hospital food, sleepless nights, endless tests and updates. Ethan and I fall into a rhythm, awkward, hesitant, but undeniable. He sits with Daniel when I need to shower. I run down to the cafeteria when he refuses to leave the room for hours. We speak little, but the silence feels less like punishment and more like truce. And in the stillness, the memories keep coming. I remember the first real fight we had after Daniel was born. It was 2 in the morning. I was exhausted, rocking Daniel in the nursery, when Ethan stumbled in, still in his suit, smelling of whiskey and long hours. "You weren't home for bedtime," I hissed, too tired for diplomacy. "I had a meeting," he snapped. "You always have a meeting." He froze, his jaw tightening. "You think I'm not doing this for you? For him? You think any of this is easy?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "He doesn't need your money, Ethan. He needs you." And for one terrifying second, I saw the truth hit him. I saw him realize it. But then the walls came back, and he stormed out, slamming the door. That night, I sat on the nursery floor, crying silently while Daniel slept in my arms, and I knew something had broken between us. Now, years later, I see that same look on his face when Daniel asks him, in a faint voice, "Will you stay, Dad?" Ethan freezes. His throat works as if the words won't come. And then, with a trembling smile, he says, "Yeah, buddy, I'll stay." Daniel drifts back to sleep, but I stay awake long after, staring at Ethan across the hospital room, wondering if maybe, just maybe, he's saying it to me too. One night, when Daniel finally stabilizes enough that the machines don't scream at every shift of his body, Ethan and I find ourselves alone in the family lounge. The vending machine hums, the coffee tastes like cardboard, and the silence between us feels like a live wire. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asks suddenly. His voice is low, dangerous, like a storm just before it breaks. I look at my hands. I was scared. Of me. Yes. I admit, the word tearing itself out of me. He flinches, and for the first time, I see real hurt in his eyes, not anger, not arrogance, but raw pain. "I loved you." The words steal the air from my lungs. Past tense. I whisper, "I loved you too." The silence that follows is unbearable. Finally, he stands, running a hand through his hair. "Doesn't matter now. What matters is him." He leaves me there, shattered, with nothing but the taste of old love and new regret burning in my chest. But something has shifted. I feel it every time he brushes Daniel's hair back, every time he dozes in the chair beside the bed, every time his eyes linger on me a fraction too long before he looks away. We are still broken, but maybe broken things can still be mended. Maybe love doesn't die, it just waits, buried under anger and mistakes, until something powerful enough digs it back up. And Daniel, our son, our miracle, our anchor, might be that something. The first snow of December falls while Daniel is still in the hospital. From the window, I watch white flakes gather on the sill, muffling the city's chaos into silence. Daniel is asleep again, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm that both comforts and terrifies me. Every breath feels like a borrowed gift, fragile and fleeting. Ethan sits on the other side of the bed, head bowed, his hand resting lightly on Daniel's blanket as if the boy might slip away if he doesn't anchor him. His suit jacket is slung over the chair, sleeves rolled up, his tie loose around his neck. For once, he looks less like the Wall Street giant and more like the man I used to wake up beside, the man who whispered dreams against my skin before the world demanded him back. I shouldn't say anything. We've kept our fragile peace for Daniel's sake. But the silence between us grows heavier by the day, full of ghosts that refuse to stay buried. So I break it. "Do you ever regret it?" My voice is barely above a whisper. His head lifts slowly, blue eyes locking onto mine. "Regret what?" "Us." The question hangs in the sterile air, heavier than the 4 bags, sharper than the antiseptic sting. Ethan doesn't answer right away. His jaw works, his fingers curl against the blanket. Finally, he exhales. "Every day." The words slice through me. I look down, shame flooding me. But then he adds, quieter, "Not loving you. Never that. I regret the things I didn't say. The nights I chose the office over you. The way I made you feel invisible." My chest aches. I want to believe him, but belief is dangerous. You always wanted more, I whisper. More deals, more power, more money. I couldn't compete with that. His gaze hardens, not with anger but with conviction. You were never supposed to compete. You were supposed to be the one thing I didn't have to fight for. The confession leaves me breathless. For a moment, I almost forget where we are, almost forget the machines and the wires and the fragile boy between us. For a moment, it's just us two men stripped bare by loss, still tangled in a love neither of us knows how to bury. Then Daniel stirs, coughing weakly, and the spell breaks. Ethan rises instantly, his hand brushing the boy's forehead, murmuring reassurances. I step back, heart pounding, tears burning. We are both still here. We are both still his. And maybe, just maybe, we are still each other's too. The transplant is only the beginning. Recovery is a battlefield of its own. Some days, Daniel improves color returning to his cheeks, a spark of energy in his eyes. Other days, infection looms like a shadow, his body too weak to fight. Each setback feels like a knife, and each tiny victory feels like a miracle. Ethan refuses to leave his side. He cancels meetings, ignores calls, snaps at assistants who try to drag him back into the world outside these walls. For the first time in years, his universe shrinks to a hospital room, a child's bed, and me. And I see him changing. The man who once measured life in numbers now measures it in heartbeats. He learns how to coax Daniel to eat, how to sit patiently through cartoons he doesn't understand, how to laugh when our son makes a weak joke about hospital food. He even learns how to sleep in a chair without complaint, his large frame folded awkwardly, one hand always reaching toward Daniel in case the boy wakes afraid. Watching him like this breaks something in me, because this is the father I wanted for my son. This is the man I used to beg for, the man I thought I'd lost forever. And every time our eyes meet across Daniel's bed, I feel the pull all over again. One evening, when Daniel finally falls into a deep sleep, I step out onto the hospital balcony for fresh air. The night is quiet, the city softened by snow, and I wrap my coat tighter against the cold. I don't hear Ethan approach until he's beside me, his breath visible in the frosty air. "Do you remember Boston?" he asks suddenly. I blink, startled. "Boston, our first trip together. You made me drive 3 hours just to see some artist's exhibition." I laugh softly, the memory flooding back. "And you pretended to hate it." "I did hate it," he smirks. "But I loved watching you fall in love with it. You lit up that whole gallery like it was made for you." My heart stutters. "Why are you bringing that up now?" He looks out at the snow, his expression unreadable. "Because I can't stop thinking about who we used to be, and who we might have been if I hadn't screwed it up." Silence stretches between us, heavy with what-ifs. Finally, I whisper, "Maybe it wasn't just you. Maybe I was too quick to give up." Ethan turns to me then, eyes blazing, and for a heartbeat the space between us crackles with something I've tried to bury for years. His hand twitches, as if he wants to reach for me, but then he shoves it into his pocket instead. "We can't go back," he says hoarsely. "Too much has happened." "I know," I murmur, "but maybe we don't have to go back. Maybe we just start again." The words terrify me even as I say them, but the look on his face, the mixture of longing and fear tells me he wants it too. Before either of us can say more, Daniel cries out from his room, and we rush back inside, the moment slipping away like snow melting on skin. The weeks drag on. Daniel grows stronger, but the doctors warn us not to get comfortable. Relapse is a constant threat. We live in a limbo of hope and fear, clinging to every scrap of good news while bracing for the worst. One night, as I'm tucking Daniel in, he looks at me with wide, serious eyes. "Why did you and Dad stop living together?" The question guts me. I glance at Ethan, who sits in the corner with his laptop closed, watching us. His expression is unreadable, but I know he heard. I sit on the edge of the bed, smoothing Daniel's hair. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. We hurt each other when we didn't mean to. Daniel frowns. "But you still love him." I freeze. "Why do you think that?" Because you look at him the way I look at ice cream. Ethan chokes on a laugh, running a hand over his face, but his eyes shine in the dim light. I kiss Daniel's forehead. Sleep, sweetheart. When his breathing evens out, I glance at Ethan. He's staring at me, something raw and unguarded in his eyes. For the first time in years, I let myself hold his gaze. And the truth is undeniable. Yes, I still love him, but love isn't enough. The longer we stay in this hospital, the more I realize how fragile this second chance really is. Because when Daniel gets better in God, I pray he will. What happens then? Will Ethan go back to his world of power suits and late nights, leaving me to pick up the pieces again? Will I run again, too afraid to watch him choose ambition over us? Or will we find a way to rewrite the story we once ruined? I don't know. All I know is that when Ethan finally falls asleep in the chair, head tilted, lashes dark against pale skin, I can't stop staring. My hand aches to reach out, to trace the line of his jaw, to feel once more what it's like to belong to him. And maybe, just maybe, this time I won't let fear steal him from me. The night before Daniel's discharge, we sit together in silence, watching him sleep. The machines are quieter now, the beeping steady and reassuring. He's a fighter, Ethan murmurs. He gets that from you? I reply without thinking. He glances at me, something soft in his eyes. No, he gets it from us. The words settle in my chest like a promise, warm and dangerous. And for the first time in years, I let myself hope. The call comes in the dead of night. Daniel's fever spikes. The monitors scream, nurses rush in, and suddenly the fragile calm we had built shatters like glass. I stumble out of the cot, heart pounding, as they will Daniel toward the ICU. Ethan shoves past me, his face carved in terror, demanding answers from doctors who don't stop moving. It's a graft versus host flare. One nurse mutters. We have to stabilize him. I stand frozen, useless, watching the boy we built together vanish behind swinging doors. My legs nearly give out, but Ethan's hand strong, shaking grabs my arm, steadying me. For once, his strength doesn't feel like a weapon. Feels like salvation. Hours crawl by like centuries. We sit outside the ICU, side by side, but not touching. The silence is suffocating until Ethan finally speaks, his voice hoarse. If we lose him, he cuts off, jaw tight, eyes burning. I can't. We won't, I whisper, though the words taste like a prayer I don't believe. He's stronger than both of us combined. Ethan drops his face into his hands, shoulders trembling. And in that moment, I see him break. Not the polished man in control, not the businessman who conquers boardrooms, but the man who once whispered he'd protect us both. The man I left because I thought he couldn't. I can't stop myself. I reach out, laying a hand on his back. His body tenses, then softens, and slowly, hesitantly leans into me. For the first time in 6 years, we collapse together, grief-stricken, terrified, but not alone. Daniel survives the night. Barely. The doctors adjust his meds, stabilize the flare, and by morning he's sleeping peacefully again, fragile but safe. Relief floods me so hard I nearly cry. Ethan just stands at the window, staring at the rising sun with the weight of the world etched into his face. When I approach him, he doesn't look away. You were right, he says quietly. About what? Money, work, all of it. I thought I was protecting him by giving him the world. But I wasn't there to give him the only thing he needed. He turns to me, eyes shining with tears. Us. My throat tightens. Ethan, I lost you because I didn't know how to love you the way you deserved. I won't make that mistake again. His voice breaks, raw and pleading. Don't run from me this time. Please. The words tear through me. For years, I've carried the guilt of leaving, the ache of loving him from afar, the fear of trusting him again. But standing here, in the fragile dawn after almost losing our son, I realize the truth. I never stopped loving him. I only stopped believing we could survive each other. I step closer, my hand trembling as I touch his face. I don't want to run anymore. His eyes close, a shuddering breath escaping him. And when he opens them again, the love I once knew is still there, bruised, battered, but alive. When our lips finally meet, it isn't the firestorm of our youth. It's slower, deeper. A kiss born of pain and forgiveness and years of longing. Feels like coming home. Daniel wakes later that morning to find us sitting on either side of his bed, holding his hands. His tired eyes dart between us, and he smiles faintly. "You're both here," he whispers. "Always," Ethan says firmly, squeezing his small hand. I meet Ethan's gaze over our son's bed, and for once, I don't look away. The weeks that follow are a blur of cautious optimism. Daniel grows stronger, his body accepting the transplant, the color returning to his cheeks. We bring him home just after Christmas, the apartment filled with warmth, laughter, and the smell of pine. Ethan stays. He doesn't go back to the office, doesn't bury himself in work. Instead, he learns how to make Daniel's favorite pancakes, helps with math homework, watches old cartoons on the couch. He slips into our lives not as a visitor, but as if he had been there all along. And at night, when Daniel is asleep, Ethan and I find each other again slowly, carefully, like men relearning the language of love. There are still fights, still old wounds that sting, but this time we don't let them fester. This time we choose to stay. One evening in January, as snow drifts outside, we sit together on the couch, Daniel curled up between us. The boy has fallen asleep against Ethan's chest, his breath steady and soft. Ethan looks down at him, then at me. "We almost lost him." "But we didn't," I whisper. "No," he agrees, brushing a hand over Daniel's hair. "Because of him, I got you back." I swallow hard, tears threatening. "And because of you, I still have him." We sit there in silence, the three of us tangled together, and for the first time in years I feel whole. Not perfect, not easy, but whole. Months later, Daniel runs through the park, his laughter echoing as he chases a kite. I sit on the bench, watching him, my heart full. Ethan drops down beside me, slipping an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. "He's unstoppable," Ethan murmurs. "Wonder where he gets that from." I tease, leaning into him. Ethan chuckles, kissing the top of my head. "From both of us. We're his fathers, his anchors, his everything." I look up at him, and in that moment, I know it's true. We've been broken, we've been lost, but somehow, against all odds, we found our way back. And this time, I won't let go. Because love, I've learned, isn't about never breaking. It's about choosing, again and again, to mend what's worth saving. And as I watch our son's kite soar high against the blue sky, Ethan's hand warm in mine, I know we're finally home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.